Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Trish.
Mrs. Brew?
Here.
Mr. Kramer?
Here.
Mr. Menegini?
Here.
Mr. Oja? Mr. Pop?
Here.
We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Can we make a motion to excuse Mr. Oja?
We can do that first if you want.
I'll make a motion we excuse Mr. Oja.
Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes. Now we'll move on to the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda. Support.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Move on to the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of December 17th, 2018. Need a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of December 17, 2018.
Support.
Who is
Scott and Brett.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Move on to the approval of the manifest 2019-01. Scott, did you have any questions?
I have nothing for tonight.
Brett?
I had none.
Lee?
Yes, I have one item here. I noticed going through it, additional workman's comp. It went down in a couple of departments dollar-wise, but it went up in some other ones. And actually, it's about $1,800 more. Is there a reasoning for that rate? Did we have some extra guys that went on workman's comp, or just?
Well, without
back to
looking at the details of which departments, I would imagine, do they give it to us based on department?
I
Yep.
think so.
Yeah.
I think
What
that-
department
It would be
is
on
more?
claims then.
The biggest department would be Public Works.
It went up in
Yeah.
Public Works?
Yeah.
I'd have to look at that. I can take a look, though.
We'll take a look, 'cause no, they haven't had anything. BPW.
That's all I have.
Yep, we'll look into
Let me
that.
know.
Okay.
I have no questions. Do I have a motion on the approval of the manifest?
I'll make a motion, we approve manifest number 2019-01 in the amount of $500,993.75.
Support.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Can I, we had I know in the past I was asked about telling everybody, answers to questions that were brought up on the previous manifest, and there were actually two questions. The first was Lee, you had asked about Luff's advertising, with advertiser. We got confirmation from the attorney that, or legal, that is not, how did I put that?
It doesn't qualify something.
Legal attorney, I have been advised that the advertiser does not meet the requirement for a newspaper of general circulation for publishing government notices. I wanted to make sure I got the wording right.
Okay.
And then the other was on a Peterson Welding bill for $800, that was $80. And that went for some angle irons for fixing the, on 104, for the salt box on truck 104. So, that was a typo.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to address the council on any agenda item shall do so now at the podium. State your name and address for the record. We have nobody here, no public hearing. We'll move on to appointments and presentation. Resolution 2019-01. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We received a request from our friends in the Little League and the baseball for officially naming the Senior League field Mike Molly Field. And very nice letter was written by Tony Adams, presented. He's a vice president for the Norway Diamonds Board, and I think it's a wonderful idea. I know that Mike was a long time coach, decades. I had, actually, Mike, when I was in American Legion, and you know that he had coached Babe Ruth and the Little League. So I think, was it 5 decades that Mike started coaching and officiating. Many of the young baseball players coming through Norway's program were touched by Mike in a very positive manner. He's a mentor. I know that he was an excellent, outstanding manager from my own personal experience, and everybody, all the youth baseball, we all looked up to him. So, and now as adults, we looked up to him too for the amount of time, effort that he's put in. So we'd like to, we have a resolution, 2019-01, which officially names the Senior League field as Mike Molly Field. And if you would like, I can read the resolution.
Sure.
Whereas Mr. Mike Molly was involved in youth baseball in the Norway area from the middle to late 1970s to his passing in the spring of 2018, and whereas over the past 5 decades, Mike served as coach, mentor, and league official for the Norway area youth baseball on both Little League and Babe Ruth, and whereas Mike shared his knowledge and expertise in many projects involving the Diamonds at Marion Park, including the construction of field number 2, which is Brackett Field. And whereas, as a coach and mentor, Mike has influenced countless players and adults in a positive manner. And whereas, as a league official, Mike contributed to the structure of the Norway Area League that has evolved into a place for boys and girls aged 7 through 18 to have an opportunity to play baseball and softball. And whereas Coach Molly had a passion not only for the game of baseball, but also for engaging our youth in a competitive and learning environment. And whereas Mike was able to represent the Norway area teams, leagues, and community with tremendous grace and integrity, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Norway does hereby recognize Mr. Mike Molly for his contributions to youth baseball in the Norway area by hereby naming field number 3 at Marion Park as Mike Molly Field, adopted the 7th day of January 2019.
Do I have a motion?
Just one question. Is it -10 or -01? There's a difference on the,
-01.
that's your one. I'll make a motion that resolution 2019-01 be approved. Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
One question before we go on, Ray. Is there any plans in the making for putting up some type of sign, like 4x5 or 4x6, whatever it might be?
There is, I think.
Yeah,
but-
I
There
talked to Mr. Van Gass, and he's already in
Oh,
the
okay.
process of doing it.
Good,
With a
good,
new scoreboard and some other stuff at the field.
And the boosters are put in for it.
Yep.
So
Great.
there will be, and then there'll be ceremony out there during one of the high school baseball games.
Oh, okay, great.
Nice. Okay, we'll move on to a presentation, Sturgeon Falls Hydro number 4 update, Scott Klabunde. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you for putting me on the agenda. Scott with HCMS. As you know, Linda Stroh, in partnership with HCMS, has been asked to take a look at the unit number 4 at the Sturgeon Falls Hydro Plant. So mid-December, thanks to your operators who dewatered it, we had a chance to more thoroughly go in and take a look at what really is going on there. It was taken offline because it had excessive vibration and just couldn't be operated anymore. So I'm going to give you just a little history. Some of this you probably know with regard to this unit because it's important as far as its original installation. Both units 3 and 4, now we're talking about number 4, which is the one that's furthest to the west in the powerhouse. But both of those units, that addition was put in the mid-1980s. And since that time, what's happened is, again, these units, both 3 and 4, were identical. Vertical units, they had parallel shaft gear drives, gearbox drives. What's happened since that time with unit number 3, when that gearbox failed, this was maybe 10, 12 years ago or so, you might recall it was replaced with a vertical direct drive arrangement, meaning that the gearbox was no longer needed. It was coupled, the runner was coupled directly to the generator. So that was a pretty major upgrade that was done. Number 4, the gearbox failed as well and was refurbished. Now, number 3 wasn't, it was upgraded to the direct drive. Number 4 was refurbished. So here we are now today, and number 4 has failed again, the gearbox. We opened it up, took a look at it. The gear sets, the bearings are at the end of their life. We can't be ran any longer. So what we're in the process of doing, we have a report here with some recommendations. We'll be finishing this up. And I'll just give you a sense for where this could be headed in terms of some of these options. One option is to refurbish in kind. What I mean by that is to take the existing gearbox and refurbish it just identical to what is there now. And that cost, again, these are just budgetary numbers, is somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000. This is just for the gearbox. And there's a 4-month lead time on that. So even with the least costly in-kind option, you're already going to be into April with respect to getting that. So you're going to miss your spring runoff with this option. And then there's a few other options in between upgrading to what we would consider to be a best in the industry class gearbox. What I mean by that is a warranty that represents best in class, which would be a 5-year warranty versus a 12-month warranty. And there's not a lot of discretion on, I mean, when I say upgrade to an industry standard, basically it's the service factor, safety factor is much higher with a gearbox like that. And the specifications for the gearing, the AGMA, the gear manufacturer's specifications, are much tighter, meaning you have a higher quality, longer lasting gearbox. What you have there right now, the Foot Jones is a low-end gearbox, which no doubt is low to mid-grade gearbox, which is no doubt why you're not getting more than, say, 10, 15 years out of these boxes before they need to be refurbished. $350,000 for a upgraded, best in the industry warranty, industry specification, high service factor, and that's about 6 months lead time. Now, there's some variations in between here. You could take the existing box and you could put the higher quality gearing in it. That would be somewhat less than, say, a new.
What did you say the first one would be, take about 3 months, 4 months?
Yeah, four months for the first, and this is just for the gearbox.
Okay.
And the numbers, the 200 to 3 or 350, again, that's just for the gearbox itself. It's an expensive item. And no doubt that's what led you to back in the late 90s or somewhere around that time frame to just eliminate it from Unit 3 and use the direct drive approach. So
The first one, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
The
go
first one you said would take 4 months, and that would be redoing the gearbox?
that would be just simply
Refurbishing
taking
it?
that box out and putting new bearings and new gears in it, and then putting that same box in. Same safety factors, basically doing an in-kind refurbishment.
And the number 2 option is,
Number 2 would be to take that same box and put better quality gears in that same box, which is possible. A higher gear specification, higher safety factor, gear set, better bearings. That would be an option.
You keep saying higher safety factor, what, is it gonna blow up?
Well, it's like anything that's designed today, you can get them with a safety factor, buy something that's a safety factor of 1. That means it's, really marginal. Or 1.5, 2, 2.5 means it's more robust. The quality, the framework of the box, the manufacturing quality of the way the gearing is made, it's better.
Is that industry standard? You mentioned 10 to 15 years on a gearbox. I mean,
On what's in there?
yeah.
I don't know exactly what Foot Jones said you could get out of that, but I think it's been about 15 years. And of course, there's some other things that, how it's ran.
Well, what would be the main cause of it failing, besides old age?
Lubrication. It's a mechanical, it's a gear set, bearings, they need lubrication, they need frequent, periodic oil changes, oil inspections, those sorts of things. And, trying to continue to get, help it get its service life, or even extend its service life. It's kind of like your car, if you keep changing oil more often, they say you can get a few more miles out of the engine. It's a mechanical, gears, wearing parts, bearings, lubrication is probably the biggest item on extending it.
And how is that direct drive holding up then?
For what I understand, pretty well.
Pretty well.
With limited issues from what the operators tell me. So the options that I mentioned here are really not upgraded to a Lidistro is looking into that. They'll have some analysis and recommendation with some pricing if you choose to do something, without the gearbox and just eliminate it completely. A couple other things to mention here. Obviously, the analysis of how often it's ran. If you're not driving the car very much, maybe you might decide not to invest a lot of time and effort because you just don't drive it that much. I believe it is the last unit on.
I was just gonna say that I think number 4 is our last.
Yeah.
It is.
And with your workhorses, the 2 horizontals being at least number 2 now, number 1 shortly being upgraded, you may feel a little differently about how you approach this.
Yeah, we ran some numbers. I was commenting about this the other day, where when we had the high water, last 3-4 years we've had excellent water, ran about 80% of the time. We found a year not too much before the high water years, which was low water, and that was actually running about 20%. So I think average, I asked Scott to go back if he could get some additional years beyond, so we could get more of an average. So probably we'll pick that up somewhere in between, 50%. So maybe it runs 50% of the time on an average year. So.
What kind of testing did we do to find the problems with it?
What kind of testing did we do on this one? Well, it was pretty obvious when we drained the oil from the gearbox and opened it up. The thrust bearing, the one that the runner and the shaft, everything below was hanging from one side of this gearbox, one of the parallel shafts. That bearing in the bottom had failed. It was really easy to see that the rollers. I have some pictures in here if you want to take a look, but it was destroyed as bearing failures are considered. And that allowed the gear sets to move, and the gearing was damaged as well because of that.
Do you have them pictures?
I don't have those pictures.
Do you have a copy, or we can get one after from you?
What's that?
Do you have copies of that, or other's?
I don't, but this will be coming in the report.
Okay, that's fine.
So, but I can give you a little sense for it here. I got a pretty good picture of that in the report here. Yeah, it was real obvious once we were able to actually open up the gearbox and take a look. Yeah. This is,
So you're
just pass that down. These are the teeth that were damaged, and then the next page here is actually a picture of that's the top bearing, and and then the next page is the bottom variant.
Okay.
It's in draft form, yes, so.
So just to go back and recap, the first option, was that the most economical, cheapest, I guess?
Yeah, by far. And what I did mention, I just want to mention this, throw this out here. There's some talk that the gear set that came out of number 3, when it was refurbished, when it was upgraded rather to direct drive, that gear set was refurbished, or I'm not quite sure if it was just refurbished or if a new set was actually purchased. And there's some thinking that that gear set is around here somewhere, either in the previous contractor's shop. We did take a look at the warehouse over here, I don't know which direction it is. The box is in there, but there's no internals in it. There's no bearings or gear set. But that gear set is somewhere. So the least costly, most economical option would be if you could find that gear set and it is in refurbished shape, as some have told us or think it is.
Did you ask Tim?
Put that in.
Yes, Tim does he remembers bringing it back over to the shop, to our shop. We just haven't put our hands on it, so we need to have Tim come back and get a chance to look.
Yeah, so that would, I mean, the cost that I mentioned here with that in-kind, it was new gearing and new bearings. If you have the bearings and the gearing, then
Yeah.
it's much less costly.
So you're looking at, if we don't have the gears,
Right.
300 to 340.
Yeah, that's for a new box. Yeah, again, high quality box.
Oh, that's a high quality? What would it, just be?
200. These are
200.
budgetary numbers. And again, this is just the box. It doesn't, with the bearings and the gear set, it doesn't include the disassembly, reassembly work. However, what the inspection will show is that on the bottom side, the runner looks very serviceable shape, the bearing, lower guide bearing, the wicket gates, everything seems to be, pretty good shape down below. Up on top, the generator itself, if we want to have that sent out, have that tested, maybe you might get new bearings in that. But, the rest of the system there is really pretty serviceable. It's really just this elephant of a gearbox that we're dealing with here. So that's good news.
Are we looking at the same amount of time between option 1 and 2?
No, he said 4 months for the first one, 6 months for the second one.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll spell this all out in our report.
What do you,
Along with an option to upgrade to what you did with number 3.
If you were doing this work, who would you have do the work for you? Would you bid it out?
We'd use the same crew that we have been working at the site with now. Leadistro, HCMS, and CR Meyer would be our crew.
when do you think Leadistro will have that report?
I would think in the next week or so, they should. Our portion is basically finished up. They're sourcing some new options, new generator, directly a couple of options. At least you have something for comparison, which is good. And, if you're looking for us to do something similar to what you did with number 3, then, that's something you might be interested in pursuing as well.
Do you, I know this is going to be a big swag, but what kind of a price and schedule going in that direction?
I'm going to let Leadistro answer that question. It'll be more expensive than any of these options, including the new gearbox, I know that.
You don't want to go out there, huh?
I'll leave that up for them to.
I tried.
It'll be more expensive, I do know that. And you could, I don't have access to that information for number 3, but you could go back and take a look and see, at that time what it did, where the generator was procured from and what that cost was. The city probably has that somewhere in the record.
Lee, you must have been on here when they did that,
No.
no?
I was here.
Yeah, you were here?
No, it was-
It was in 2000s. Mid-2000.
Mid-2000?
Yeah.
I guess I was
I go
here.
back.
So what would you recommend? Refurbishing it, going direct, or buying new?
Well, it's, the approaches depend on where you're coming from. I mean, if you're looking to, put something back in there that's going to have low maintenance, it's going to be very reliable, then you're going to be looking to do something like you did with number 3, more of a directly coupled, or a gearbox that has, the kind of the higher reliability that like a Philadelphia gearbox would be, with a nice warranty, a 5-year warranty. On the other hand, it really depends how you're looking at it. If the unit's not ran very much, and you're looking to do something more economical, then find the gear sets. They must be around here somewhere. Maybe they're in the shop, the contractor's shop that you had used before. And but you have to, that approach, you have to appreciate that it's more challenging from a plant operating standpoint. It's more heavy from a preventative, from a maintenance standpoint, because it's just not as robust, not as reliable. So
I'd like to
just,
take a look at those numbers, and I'd like to maybe do a little more evaluation to get a better average with water flow, find the water flow average over, more than, 6 or 7 years that we had, get back 15 to 20 years, and we can come up with the average, because we know what the flows are when they reach certain bands of when that machine comes on.
Yep.
And so we can get a pretty good idea on the percentage of use. And like I say, my guess is it's going to be about 50% based on just looking at the high and the low, numbers. But also, I want to look at the maintenance costs. You can probably help me out with that.
Yeah.
It is very extensive from a maintenance standpoint. Some things that we're learning about it through this process. So those, the big difference between the direct connect and that box when it comes to the maintenance. So I think that's worth having in the evaluation, that what those costs are.
Yeah, that's what you asked for. So the idea here was just to give you something to start to think about, and the approach in terms of laying out, our approach in terms of laying out the options for you to look at, and that will be coming shortly.
And this is a different approach than we take with units 1 and 2. They run 100% of the time. At least unit 1 is 100%, and unit 2 is darn near 100%. So those are the main machines. And so 3 and 4, you kind of have to take a look at that percent of use. We do run 3 more than we do 4. So, but we'll get you all that numbers.
Yeah, so if you had any other questions for me, as far as what you'd like to see, and if there's anything else you'd like to make sure is in the report or in the analysis as we work it out, so you got enough information to make a decision. The best information.
I don't think so.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and we'll send this over to Ray here in the next week or so, and we'll look forward to talking more about it.
All right,
Okay,
thank you.
all.
Move on to communication, approval of Wisconsin Land Management Plan timber sales. Mr. Anderson.
Okay, we mentioned in the past about working through our land management plan, or our timber management plan, on the acreage that we have in Wisconsin. We've had Van Oss Forestry Service looking at and bidding out that timber sale. There's about 100+ acres of harvest that we bid out, and we have a high responsive bidder. In this case, we want the high bidder, is Frank's Logging at $135,135.55. We gave you the breakdown of the bids that came in. There were 6 bids that came in. So I can open it up for questions at this point. I did notice the contract, pretty standard contract for timber sale, and there isn't a full 2 years. I think it just goes till spring of next year, of 2020. So it's a little less, a lot of times I've seen 2 years, but I think what he did was he has 2 winters. So,
Is this gonna affect our possible sale of the land?
no, not with the DNR.
No.
No. We have to do this. In fact, I actually drug our feet a little bit. We're doing 2 years of timber, and it's not this year and next year, it's this year and last year in this cutting, because I thought that, why would we do the timber cutting if they were gonna buy the property?
Right.
And their forester, who resides over Marin County, he let us do that, because he was kind of anticipating that it was gonna happen. Didn't happen, so we said, let's just go ahead and get the cutting. So, it actually works out for us, because of the money's gonna come to our, but this is a select cut, this isn't, you know.
Right.
Be a big.
This Frank's Logging, I never heard of them before. Where are they from?
I don't even know where they're from. The Brock Van Oss, project manager on this, is very familiar with them. He said that they're fine, used them before. I do know that, talking with Norway Township, that they have some experience with Franks. I just don't have any, and I don't have enough information from the bid packets to know where they're from.
No, it doesn't make a difference, I was just
Yeah.
curious.
May 15th of 2020 is when they're supposed to be done.
If there's no other questions, I would need a motion.
I'll make a motion that Frank's Logging be awarded timber harvest for a price of $145,135.55.
Support.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Move on to the approval USDA RDW WTP project.
We have an amendment to the engineering agreement. That is actually an amendment for a credit back to the city of $34,000. And that particular credit, that's a deduct back, proposed amendment deduct. So that would put the final total engineering cost at $671,900.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that the proposed amendment be approved from Mead and Hunt for an amount of $34,000 and bring the total engineering contract to $671,900.
Support.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Move on to the approval electric department Sturgeon Falls Hydro Unit number 1 and number 2 sensors.
I got a request that came through from the electric department and also from FDS, from Jesse Fairchild, for, there's some discussion between the electric department and FDS and Jesse about adding some emergency sensors, and I think it came from, we had a high water situation this past fall, and the powerhouse almost got flooded out. And so, between the smoke detection and high water sensor, wanted to add that within the powerhouse in Unit 1 side and Unit 2 side. We got this quote from Jesse. He did do some work under a maintenance agreement that we have with him, that he comes in and does a little bit of work here and there, and, but he didn't have enough in that agreement to do this whole thing, so I wanted to get this approved for $2,260 so he could get those sensors in.
Do I have a motion?
I'm all for putting the sensors in, I just find it hard to believe we never had these before.
Yeah, we never did. A lot of sandbags.
Yeah, well, that's sandbag.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the electric department's Sturgeon Falls Hydro Unit 1 and 2 sensors.
Support.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Move on to approval electric department, MEUW JTS safety and training program.
Okay, this particular training is different than the citywide safety program we talked about last year. This is, they used to be called the JT&S. Now they have a new acronym, ESTC, Electric Utility Safety and Training Program. This is specific to electric. This is the testing, the pole climbing, the high energy
Didn't we have this
safety.
before?
We've been doing it for years.
That's what I thought.
It's just that, I mean, it's like $5,000 and we've never had it come to council. So I asked them last year if we could get a contract, or some kind of agreement that I could bring to council. And there are 40-plus different members that partake in this, and each one, they don't want to come up with they don't have a single agreement that they can use for this program, because it's basically just, it's safety training. It's just, it's like safety classes, you know, like going to the service academy, you know, and they don't have they have a program for it. We get trained with OSHA required electrical training, but they just never put a contract type scenario together. It was more like we were just buying into the class. So I think what we're going to do is, we still are going to, I mean, I'm asking for the permission to spend the $5,600 for the training, but I'm also looking to get more like a PO from them. You know, so we have something that, I just feel more comfortable that we have kind of a PO or some kind of
Well,
document.
before, did we just pay for the classes when we went to them? Is that how?
Well, they had, yes, we actually paid for, it's based off the number of employees that we have in the electric department, and it's based off the number of classes. And so, there's like 8 sessions in a year, and they don't do them 8 different times. Sometimes they'll do 2, we go up to Florence, they come here, you know, we go back and forth. If we don't go to all of them, then they don't bill us, but that's what we normally would pay, and we do them all because we have to for OSHA.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and if somebody misses, then we have to try and figure out how to get them back in, type of thing. So, I mean, it's a mandatory. We have to do this for our linemen. This is one program that we've been using for quite a while. Last year, they had a little bit of a turnover, so there was a gap. We had classes in the spring, and then we went all summer without classes, but they did complete all their work this fall. So they had a couple of classes, back to back.
Any questions? If not, I would need a motion.
I got one question. How long would this be good for? Like
For 1 year.
just 1 year? Eh? The next year they have to do the same thing again?
Yeah.
That's all.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that MEUW be approved to ESTC electrical specific safety training for a price not to exceed $5,653.54.
Support?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes. We'll move on to approval extension of real and personal property tax payment deadline.
This is housekeeping, something we do every year. By charter, our winter tax payment is due February 15th, and we've always extended it to the end of February, and this is where, we extend it to where we take it, here at City Hall. If we do not extend it, then you'll have to go up, after that date, up to the county courthouse.
Do I have a motion on that?
Make a motion that the deadline for payment of winter real and personal property taxes collected by the city be extended from February 15th, 2019 to February 28th, 2019.
Support?
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
We have nobody in the audience. We'll move on to council comments. Scott?
I'd just like to remind everybody that our sidewalk machine is still being maintained, or in maintenance right now, getting fixed. So if you could, get out and shovel the sidewalks, you know, there's a lot of snow that we got over the last 24 hours. And the streets are pretty narrow as it is, so we don't want those kids walking on the streets. That's all.
Brett?
No, I have none.
Just people be careful out there with all this ice. It is the UP.
I have none. Grant?
Just briefly, my understanding is our mayor has finished up her term on the Norway Vulcan School Board, and I wanted to just thank her for her years of community service work. It takes a special person to put that kind of effort and donate that kind of time, and it is appreciated on behalf of myself and the council and the community as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Candy.
Thank you.
Well, I'll echo that, and I'll say that I'm glad that you're gonna have more time, that you can come and meet with me. I know it's stressful. I watched Candy over the last couple of years and balancing the school board and the city, and that was a tremendous effort and a lot of time, and so I want everybody to know how much time she put in and an excellent effort that she did doing that. Well, I'm going to miss having you bounce stuff off about the school too, so. Anyway, I have one item that I just want to bounce off the council. I talked to a few of you before the meeting, but I just want to make sure everybody's aware. We did have a blowout on our snow blower, normal snow blower. It's I think a 26-inch blower unit, and it's going to cost about $400 to fix for sure. It's the bearings in the front. It's a 10-plus-year-old unit, 15-year-old unit. So I know that buying a new unit is going to cost over $1,000. I just want to, I don't know if you want to let us have the authority to go out and get the best price we can right now, or wait till 2 weeks and bring it back. I kind of like to let the guys know tomorrow so they can go get something, because with all the snow we
How
had
old is
today.
this one?
The one we have is it's at least 10 plus. It's maybe 2005, 2004. So gets a lot of use.
What do you think a new one is?
I would say under $1,200, but $1,200. But, 24 inches is about what we're looking at. So,
I don't see any reason why you can't go out and get one, look around for the price and just get it.
Yeah.
Who knows when we're going to get more snow, and they need it, you know?
It gets a lot of use.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, and the guys at the wastewater plant, one of the things they do is they get out and they get in the back of the truck and they get out and they hit the areas that, I'd rather have the guys stay in the trucks plowing, and then these guys can go out and catch some of these areas, because otherwise they're stopping, and that's a safety issue. It's not good for them, it's not good for the public, to have them stopping and starting with the plows.
Right.
Even in the pickups. So they do a great job, and I just want to give them the tools so they can do the job. Okay, that's good.
Trish? No? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Support?
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menike?
Yes.
It's just so easy to do. I want to try it. It's just so easy to do.